Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council adjourned meeting of Monday, November 20th, 2017. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Albertson?
Here.
Bueller? Bueller.
Here.
Lallam?
Here.
Manty? Here. Roby?
Here.
Solom?
Here.
Danforth was absent. Thorson? Absent. Vilhauer?
Here.
Y?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion and second?
So moved.
Moved by Bueller, second by Manty. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. The second item is approval of the agenda, and I would like to remove item number 7 and move item 11, which is the first reading of the sign code, to the top. I think there's 7. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I think there are quite a few people that want to.
No, I think they're all here for the change order.
But you guys don't need 6 agenda items again, you know.
Could I have a motion for
So-
approval
so
of the
moved.
agenda?
Second.
Moved by Vilhauer, second by Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Okay. Item number 11 is the first reading pull it out here. First reading of ordinance number 17-45, amending sections 21.8026 and 21.8028 of the revised ordinances of the City of Watertown regarding zoning procedures, the sign code. Shane, do you want to talk about this?
Thank you, Mayor. Little background. On September 5th, 2017, the City Council considered an ordinance number 17-33, which amended Chapter 2180 and Section 2190 of the city ordinances with regard to updating the sign code. At that meeting, there was a public hearing, which we took input from the public, both favor and against that ordinance. Ultimately, the council deliberated and passed that unanimously, if I recall. And then subsequent to that, the city staff received some requests to further amend the sign code. One request was to allow realtor signs within the city right-of-ways, which are excluded under current ordinance. So there's a request to exempt them from that provision. And city staff also recognized a need to amend the sign code to recognize identification signage. We've recently had some large projects, expansions, most notably the hospital, did a major expansion, and, by ordinance, they were limited to the same signage, even though they had doubled their building surface. So the thought was to allow them to put some identification signage up there that wouldn't count against their allowable signage. So we've included that for buildings in excess of 5 stories or 50 feet in height to use 5% of their building surface for identification signage and not have that count against their total allowance of signage area. So that's, in a nutshell, the background on why this ordinance is brought forward. Just a little bit of background that the city staff did do some research related to the request for the realtor signs, and we did a pretty comprehensive survey for size cities similar to us across the state, and found that 11 or so did not allow realtor signs in the right of way at all. A couple did. It's very minor. I'll read the summary on the memo. The cities that said no to everything in the boulevard, similar to what we're recommending, is Sioux Falls, Aberdeen, Huron, Harrisburg, Deadwood, Fort Pierre, Rapid City, Yankton, Brookings, Brandon, and Mitchell. There are some that allow political signs but not real estate. That one listed as Pierre. There are 3 that do allow real estate signs: Sturgis, Spearfish, and Box Elder. City staff recommendation is that we don't support the allowance of the realtor signage within the right-of-way. For the reasons that, but we do support, we do support the revision for the identification signage on large buildings within the community. And the Plan Commission's recommendation was that they deny recommending the proposal for allowing the realtor signs. And they do support the change with the identification signage.
Okay, thank you. I support both the staff and the Plan Commission recommendations. And I want to talk a little bit about the process for changing our ordinance. Every change to this ordinance requires a public hearing at the Plan Commission and Plan Commission recommendation. And the Plan Commission had a public hearing, and denied recommending this. What that means is it goes on to it. Well, let me fix that a little bit. The Plan Commission was split. There are 2 items proposed to be changed. One is the realtor signs, and the other one is the scale of a large building identification sign. And the Plan Commission did not support a change to the ordinance to allow realtor signs in the right-of-way, and they did support a change to have the size of a sign be relative to the size of a building. And so the next step now is City Council. The ordinance has 2 readings. This is the first reading, and the second reading will be at the next council meeting, which is December 4th, and there will be a public hearing following the second reading, and then council action. Because the Plan Commission was split on this, the action will probably be separated for the council. The one part of it which was not supported will require a 2/3 approval vote of the council to go against the Plan Commission's recommendation. So instead of 6 people on the council having to vote to allow realtor signs in the right-of-way, it will require 7 out of the 10 council members. So that will happen on December 4th. But I see there's a great deal of interest in our community in this. This room's full of people, and I want to know what you think. I care about what you think. And so in the effort to try and save some time, I am going to attempt to summarize what I think your concerns are, because I've received a lot of phone calls, emails, and letters about this issue. So listen carefully. I will summarize. If you hear your concern, then I don't want to hear it again. But if I go through everything and I haven't expressed your opinion or what you came to say tonight, then I'm going to ask for a show of hands to see how many people had sentiments which were not expressed. And if there are a few, I will allow a little bit of public hearing, even though this hasn't been advertised as a public hearing. I can allow you to comment before the council. There will be no action tonight, though. So listen carefully for your concern. And here is what I understand to be the favors, or the people that want realtor signs to be allowed in the public right-of-way. Here are the reasons to support that. It's good for ease of seeing which houses are for sale. It's visible advertising of a real estate business. It promotes ease of seeing realtor information without having to get out of the car. Some people fear that having to place signs on private property will result in fewer properties sold over any period of time or longer time to sell a property. Realtors may lose income because people cannot see their advertising. Special permission will be required for off-premise advertising of open houses, which will create a need for realtors to spend more time. And fewer people will attend open houses because signs will not be as visible, leading to longer time required to sell a property. And here are the reasons given against allowing realtor signs in the public right-of-way. Special treatment of one business sector over others is not fair. So allowing realtor businesses to do something that landscaping businesses or house painting or construction businesses are not allowed to do isn't fair. Public right-of-way should be dedicated to public purposes. Since realtor signs do not serve a public purpose any more than any other business advertisement, they do not belong in the public right-of-way. And fewer signs in the right-of-way gives a less cluttered and therefore more appealing view of our community. We've been criticized as being a cluttered, kind of messy looking town, and this would help change that image. So raise your hand, please, if you have a sentiment that I did not express or if I haven't covered your issue. Okay, I see a few hands. Please do not repeat what someone else has said. I will allow you to come up one at a time, state your name for the record, state your issue, but do not repeat anything I said and do not repeat anything any other person said. And please limit your comment to 3 minutes at the very most. Okay, please come forward.
Mayor and Council, I'm Kyle Lallam. I'm a realtor with Haugen Nelson Realty here in town. I thank you for allowing your time and allowing me to speak in favor of the amendment to the current sign ordinance. In reviewing the supporting documents on the agenda, item 11 ordinance 17-45, there are a few things I'd like to address. First, when the staff researched the similar communities in South Dakota, their research showed 11 communities that do not allow signage in the public right-of-way. However, in speaking with realtor members in some of those communities, two things came up. While there are ordinances in place, some of them enforce it upon complaint only, and some enforce unilaterally. And most realtors within those communities that I spoke with had no issues with directional signage or open house signage. Secondly, these communities do not have lakes within the city limits that would be adversely affected by the current ordinance. Secondly, the mayor's comments that state, in my opinion, these business signs do not serve the public purpose, should not be allowed in the public right-of-way. I disagree with that. Real estate signs do serve a public purpose. According to statistics published by the National Association of Realtors, nationwide buyers state that yard signs account for 8% of their discovery point when searching for properties, while locally, however, that statistic is about triple or about 24%. Other statistics by NAR or the National Association of Realtors are only about 1% of consumers find their homes via print ad, while locally the public opinion's highest distributed day is Wednesday, the day that the real estate locator guide comes out. This is how our local consumers search for homes. Individual motivation for selling homes varies. It could be because of relocation, it could be because of divorce, death, or they're a traditional step-up buyer. Regardless of their motivation, ultimately the client or consumer want it sold. Watertown currently has 152 active residential homes listed for sale within city limits. On average, there are about 12 to 30 open houses on any given week or weekend, and it is difficult for us to market those open houses without directional signage being on private property per the current city ordinance. South Lake Drive from Cattail Crossing to the Prop, much of North Lake Drive along Highway 20 would be adversely impacted should this exception not be allowed. Other points around Compeska that would be adversely affected by our sellers and potential buyers is the 500 to 800 block of North Lake Drive, as well as Sunnyside to Spooner Drive. I researched each council member's homes today and found that all but a few of you have homes in the middle of your block. If you wanted your home sold and requested one of the northeast area of South Dakota realtors to openly market your open house, wouldn't you prefer that the consumers that have been programmed to look for open house signs find it by the simplest means possible? I respectfully request that you allow this real estate signage exception to its current ordinance in effect to continue to serve the public in a manner that they have become accustomed. The reminder that we are basically talking about 200 signs for a community of over 200,000, or 22,000, excuse me. It would be nice if we were 200,000. Realtor signs do not distract or tarnish the first impression of this great community. If you wanted to have that, you should talk to some of the people that come here and visit this community during citywide cleanup when there is trash all over the boulevards. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I did detect several repetitions there. Whoever's next, if he hasn't said or if I didn't say that, please come forward, but please don't repeat what I expressed or what Kyle expressed. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? And that was like 4.5 minutes, Kyle, so.
He's always been long-winded.
Thank you for allowing me to address the council here tonight. My name is Leif Erickson. I'm also with Haugen Nelson Realty. And speaking in favor of the exception for real estate signs. And I'll probably touch on some of the things that were covered, but I just have different points about them. First of all, I just wanted to make a point that hasn't been brought up, is that with the signs out there, some people may be thinking that most people just look on the internet anyway, so why do we need a sign? But it's both. I get calls in the summer daily, now weekly, where people are out there, they say, hey, there's a sign here, how much is this house? Or vice versa, we saw it on the internet, but we can't find the house. And if the signs were less visible, like Kyle mentioned, in the middle of the block, it will cause a little bit more of a hardship for people to find homes. Also, I wanted to mention that that this is not really a special business exception. We're putting the signs out at the homeowner's request. We're doing what they're asking us to do. And if they asked us not to have a sign, we wouldn't have a sign. But when they ask us to market their home to the best of their ability, that's what we do, and the sign closer to the road is better. All the other points were covered, I think. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Hey there, Jesse Keel, Mainstream Realty. Mine's a little shorter and simpler. I just always look at stuff as a safety aspect. I don't know, you guys probably don't look at signs as often as we do, but especially at night when you're trying to find out which house you're going to, if you don't know the town very well, you find yourself paying more attention off to the side rather than the road. So if your sign is not like getting hit by your headlights, you're not going to see it at all. And you also can't see the numbers on the house. So I'm just worried about people just driving around and like paying more attention to the side versus where they're driving. And if one person got like hit or a kid got hit over this deal, I don't know if they'd ever mention that was the reason, but I feel like if one person was injured, it'd kind of be worth it. So that's all there is to that. It's just simple as safety. So
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks for taking the time to hear us out tonight. My name's Jason McGuire. I'm from Exit Realty. And just a couple of points with some of the factors that was a kind of on the no side. We basically provide a service for our customer, and of course, you all know we don't get paid until it's, we get a sale done and so forth. So just saying that we're putting our signs out there just for, our own gratitude would be probably not right, because first of all, when you're a real estate agent, you're taught to put that customer first, not behind your sign or behind your advertisement or something of your own. Number two, we'd have a problem with putting the signs in places where there's cement, so it'd be hard to put, a sign on the cement or hang it on the side of a house. I don't think that'd be very attractive in Watertown. And number three, the tools that we have out there promoting our listings like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and so forth. I think our community is pretty much geared is looking for signs, looking for the open house signs. You got to put more than one sign up to get people at your open house. You can't just put one in the front of the yard. It doesn't work. I've been doing this for 25 years. And then number four would be just basically the revenue that this all brings into the city. And I know that's something that, that's not allowed to be thought of as part of a decision-making process of the board. But I think it warranties I always forget the name, but when I was on the planning and zoning board, and Sarah, you and I have had this conversation, was hardship. It would be a hardship to have our signs hiding out there that you can't see them anywhere to the seller, not to the realtor, but more to the seller. We got to think about this. We got to think about the consumer first, not the realtor. So I think that would be a real big hardship just to have the signs heading out there. And so I don't repeat myself like Kyle Lallam was saying, especially in some of them areas that don't have any lot. Most of it's boulevard. So I'm kind of talking about some of the lake area out there. And that's all that I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Go ahead.
Hey, my name's Joe Snyder with Diamond Realty. I just thought of one thing when I was sitting here. I guess with the real estate market right now, we're transitioning to more technological era of people are using their smartphones. They're using QR codes as the big one. To me, I guess, as a property owner, if I had a sign if I was in the boulevard or the right of way, as opposed to in my yard, I'd rather have people stopping and scanning that QR code right there in the right of way, as opposed to physically walking onto my property or my grass. Especially with South Dakota, our winters are long, unfortunately, and some of the properties you might have to put it back more in the yard, closer to the house, so that it can be visible from the road. But then that could, in turn, have people stop, get out of their car. They might want to scan it or whatever, take a picture of it for information, and they're walking out of their vehicle and walking on my property. I know that we don't live in a really dangerous town, but I prefer my privacy when it comes to my land that I own. So, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Last call. All right, like I said before, there will be a public hearing at the next council meeting, December 4th, and you're welcome to all return at that time if you wish and make your pitch again. So thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Just gonna leave you by myself? Just hang out here by myself till the end of the agenda.
You sure you don't want to hear about the change orders?
I feel offended.
All right, deal. Yeah, I am. Yeah, you too, man. Good job. You had Roby shaking in his boots. Okay, I'm not by myself.
Mayor, I'd like to, while we're transitioning, I'd like to make a comment. Vince, you better be prepared in 2 weeks to explain. I watched that planning commission meeting, and that motion and the votes were very confusing. So you better be ready to explain to us what we're voting on in a couple of weeks.
Turn to item 11. And if you turn first to the resolution, okay, the resolution 2017-37 shows what the Planning Commission passed, okay? So, which includes that stricken out. That was not passed, okay? So we just left that in there for illustration. So then turning to 47A, that is the ordinance proposed to follow up on the Planning Commission. Okay, so that would be the normal procedure for adopting. However, because we suspected the real estate signs might be coming back on a motion by at least one council person, we prepared 45B to be acted on separately. And then that will require the higher percentage of votes. Does that help?
Yes, that will make.
The answer is yes. Yes.
A does say specifically buildings, and then B does say specifically.
We'll take them individually, so it'll be clear what they're voting on.
Yes. Yep. And in 2 weeks, I'll provide the same explanation to the crowd of people interested in the change order.
Okay, item number 3 is application for change in ownership of a retail on-sale liquor license, Sunday liquor sales, video lottery license, and on-off sale malt beverage license for the Shamrocks and Edelweiss Corporation doing business as Dempsey's Brewery and Pub and Restaurant at 127 North Broadway. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak about this? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for council action. Is there a motion? Moved by Bueller, second by Manti. Any discussion?
Mayor, for the record, I'll recuse myself, items 3, 4, and 5.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 4, renewal of a retail on-sale liquor license, Sunday liquor sales, video lottery license to the Shamrocks and Edelweiss Corporation, doing business as Dempsey's Brewery and Pub and Restaurant at 127 North Broadway. Is there a motion and second to approve this? Moved by Solom, second by Lallam. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 5, application for a new retail on-off sale malt beverage license for Michael Lucan doing business as Golf on Kemp at 11 East Kemp Avenue. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak about this? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for council action. Moved by Y, second by Albertson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 6, consideration of change order number 1, final to the contract with J&J Earthworks for the Jackson Park parking lot and trail improvements project number 1701, increasing the contract $7,400 1 cent for a total amount of $122,540 and 1 cent. Shane?
Thank you.
Kristen wouldn't want us to round that.
Thank you, Mayor. You sound winded after all those words. We rebid this project because the initial bids came in over our project budget estimates, and we rebid it after we had found favorable bids on other projects, so we had excess funds in our 212 projects for the year. So with that, we proceeded on July 27th. The council awarded the project. The project was subsequently completed, and the final quantities did increase the contract by $7,400.01. And the work was all satisfactorily completed. So with that, the staff recommends a motion to approve change order number 1 final for the 2017 Jackson Park parking lot and trail improvements project number 1701. Any further comments?
Is there a motion and second for that?
So moved.
Moved by Vilhauer, second by Lallam. Any discussion?
I've got a question. This is ignorance on the bid law. The fact that the total amount is now $122,540.01, which is more than the $121,345, which was the second bid. Is that any kind of issue? Do you see what I'm asking?
No, because we did not change the scope of work. The original contract was the low bid, and in other words, had we awarded the second place bid, we'd still be increasing by the contract by $7,000.
Okay, that's what I thought. We just more to pose a question.
Good question.
Any other discussion? All right. Did I get a motion? Second. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 8. First reading of ordinance number 17-42, amending district boundaries by rezoning block 75, 3rd Railway Edition, I-1 Light Industrial District to R3 Multifamily Residential District. That's just a first reading, so unless anyone has any questions.
I do have a question. Where is this located at exactly?
Shane, do you have a picture?
Okay, so 3rd Railway Edition, this is Highway 81, 4th Street Northeast as city streets go. 2nd Avenue Northeast. Here the old railroad tracks came down through here. 3rd Street Northeast. So it's these 4 properties that are proposed to be rezoned. The petition was initiated by the property here at 19, well, I can't read that right now, but anyway, on the corner of 2nd Avenue and 3rd Street, we received a request for a building permit, which we had to deny because of the zoning. And so we asked them to petition for a rezone. And through that process, we recognized that those 4 properties would probably all benefit from the rezone rather than just isolate it to one. So we did reach out to those other property owners and get subsequent petitions. And so this is the result. We took this to the Planning Commission, and they recommend that we rezone this from industrial to R3.
That's behind Casey's, it looks like. Is that?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Shane. We'll move on. Item number 9 is first reading of ordinance number 17-43, amending district boundaries by rezoning Airport Industrial 2nd Edition from I-2 Heavy Industrial District to I-1 Light Industrial District. Shane?
Thank you, Mayor. Orientation on this one, this is Highway 12 headed northwest out of town. The Armory is over here across the street to the east. This is the Steinmetz home manufacturing area. Mr. Steinmetz petitioned the Plan Commission to consider rezoning this south portion of his lot. His ambition is to create a plat and subdivide that into 4 individual lots, which for reasons of lot sizing, he's proposing to change the zoning from I-2 to I-1, which lessens the restriction, or there's less restrictions to the lot sizes in I-1. So that's the purpose for this rezone.
I don't know if this is the place to ask, but is that something where they would sell that off to individual owners, or they use it for their own personal use?
Their intent is to sell 4 different lots.
What's the total size of the parcel being rezoned? I think that includes property to the north too, that 5.9.
There is, well, there would normally be enough room to split that into 5 lots, but we're doing 4 because of the necessary room to provide for storm detention. Rezoned on this request is 148,000 square feet. And the minimum I-1 lot is 30,000 square feet and 100-foot frontage.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do we have a provision that limits to a minimum size so that it's not a spot zone, like at least 5 acres, something like that, so that we don't get spots?
I'm not sure that that applies in this case, but we can review that.
Is there any I-1 adjacent to this? Doesn't look like it. It's all
Not adjacent. There is a little bit of I-1 slightly to the southeast here. Primarily, the uses in this I-2 zone have not been businesses that would be found in an I-2 zoning. So even Steinman's property that he has now is not necessarily an I-2 use. He could be in other zoning and still build houses.
My question was, some of our zones, I think, have a minimum size so that we don't have spot zones. They have to be at least a certain number of acres in order to, and I don't know how big this is.
It's 148,000 square feet, so it'd be, roughly just shy of 4 acres, I think.
That's 3.39 acres.
Yeah. So, anyway, something to check.
I was just going to ask you, we talk about our comprehensive plan and we refer to it back a lot. Just in general, what is our comprehensive plan for Highway 20? Where are we going with that? Because we've got some industrial here, we've got some, looks like some manufacturing I know of, and we've got that nice readiness center across the street. Can you just give me a little guidance on that?
Well, we do have a comp plan update in the queue for approval by the city council, and we do utilize the comp plan primarily on zoning and transportation type issues as a primary use for my department anyway, and we do make references to that as we expand out into the county especially.
The comp plan probably does not differentiate between light and heavy industrial, so I don't know that would, but I think this area is intended to be industrial in nature. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Shane. Item number 10, first reading of ordinance number 17-44, amending district boundaries by rezoning Interstate Office Edition from BP Business Park District to I-1 Light Industrial District. Shane.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Petitioners Watertown Development Company and Redland Arts Centers proposed this change in zoning. The petitioners submitted an application on November 1st, 2017. It was reviewed through the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission did vet through the pros and cons of the proposed zoning. Existing, of course, is Business Park District, and the proposed changes to I-1 Light Industrial. The scope of the project is to improve the marketability of the lots included in the area. There are covenants that are relevant to this property from the, is it Mallard Cove or what is it? Mallard Point, excuse me. And those discussions have been underway as well. The Planning Commission did approve this application for rezoning to the council.
Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Shane. Item number 12, consideration of funding for improvements on the 800 block of 26th Street Southeast. And I can go ahead and talk about this. Joe, if you want to come forward, can you bring this up on the GIS, Shane?
I have to apologize. Vince made me change clothes before I came. I was dressed a little nicer earlier.
Okay, so we can see on the GIS that the portion of roadway that we're discussing is the little unfinished segment between 8th Avenue South and US Highway 212. And there are two different property owners abutting that. And the improvements to roadways are by ordinance required to be made by the property owners adjacent or the developers of the land. And in this case, we've had a request from the property owner on the west half for the city to pay for the improvements. And on the east half, the property owner has already signed and recorded a development agreement to pay for their share. So I presented this to the council with two options. One would be the standard language with a development agreement that mirrors the development agreement signed for the east half, the same requirements for the west half, and they basically split the cost. And the other option is a resolution which the council would authorize city payment for the improvements. And the justification for city paying for this would be, as the property owner requested, there was some damage and some trespassing by a contractor in the process of building the road that's there now. They piled some dirt and they installed sewer and water services on the private property without permission to enter. And that's been given as grounds for waiving the cost. And I would also like to add, though, and I did add this in the resolution, that there would be a benefit to the community by opening that area up for development. And the access would benefit, if you can zoom out, Shane, not just those two lots adjacent to it, but the whole area. And cars would be able to access all of that area between Willow Creek Drive, Highway 212, and Willow Creek via 26th Street here. So those are the options. The council has the authority to tweak either one of those documents as they see fit. Change it however you think is fair and correct. And even, I mean, as an option, you could table it if you feel like it deserves more time and consideration. But
Madam Mayor?
I didn't want to.
I'm
yes.
sorry. I thought you were done.
I didn't want to delay this any further. I wanted to let you act if you're ready to act.
Can you quantify this? What are we talking about? The assessment, but also how much damage was caused?
Okay, the assessment would be the total cost of all of the improvements on both sides is about $202,000. That includes all of the work in the US Highway 212 right-of-way and both sides of the road to make that connection. The damage, I struggle with that one. Joe Quinn's here.
Yeah, my name's Joe Quinn. I'm the Director of Project Development for Glacier Lakes Capital. I don't know that the damage, I don't know if that's really the right word. It's the fact that work was done on our property prior to any type of development agreement, and in fact, that development agreement has still to this day not been executed in any way, shape, or form. We did receive a development agreement from the mayor's office and Shane's office this last Wednesday, of which, for all intents and purposes, the big broad strokes are agreeable. But we are bogged down on a few details, and that's true. So damage, it's really easy to look at this and say, well, damage, hell, they paid for sewer and water already. It's true. However, the permissions and the proper way and the development agreements that we have with the city and the right way of doing things did not occur. And therefore, we did not have any input on how that work was done, nor did we have any protection from the liability should someone or something happen on that property while the work was being done without our notification. So damage, I just want to clarify that term. There's no scars that are irreparable here.
Is the question the city should be covering that or the other developer?
Don, I don't know that that Glacier Lakes Capital is asking the city to come in and actually move a pile of dirt. Okay, I mean, that seems pretty stupid to me too. What we're ultimately trying to do is everyone wants the same thing. We want to develop that property so that it has economic benefit and long-term profitability for, you know, the city in terms of revenue, as well as us as a developer and whoever may own that building going down the road. We want it to be profitable moving forward. I'm not sure. I know Mike Danforth had requested some information from us prior to this meeting, and we found out today he wasn't going to be here. But so I don't know how far that was shared. The conversation, and I don't want to get too far off topic here. The conversation of this development agreement has been one that's been ongoing for over 2 years. This is not something that just popped up on Wednesday of last week, and now we're sitting here talking about it. We've been discussing this for a long time. The primary issue that has caused concern for Glacier Lakes Capital primarily is not in the street. It's in the right-of-way and the approach. That's the major issue that we have on Glacier Lakes Capital. Our property in this overall development, on what Shane can see here, is just literally about approximately, give or take, 38,000 square feet out of 60 or 70 acres of land that you see there now. So currently, the current proposal that we have in our development agreement is to have Glacier Lakes Capital pay for the additional improvements to 26th Street, which we have agreed to do in terms of the hard surface, curb and gutter, etc. That represents, of the 202,000, and the mayor and I, as well as Mr. Foley, had a meeting today, and we haven't verified the exact dollar amount, but approximately those costs are $30,000, approximately. The remaining $170,000 approximately is the approach expansion, the box culvert expansion, the turning lanes that need to be widened, and as Mayor Karen very accurately described in our meeting this afternoon, those decisions aren't city decisions. They're state DOT decisions. And so the width of that box culvert, the turning lanes that need to be made available to semis primarily, that's our main issue. If we all drove Priuses like Dan Albertson did, then we wouldn't need these big lanes. But the semi-trucks for delivery, and this is all going to be, for the most part, commercial retail or restaurant type businesses that are going to be in this development. So, you know, semi-traffic is going to definitely be necessary. So we're not necessarily debating that, okay, and I know I say I'm talking maybe a little bit on my own here, but we understand that the box culvert needs to be widened. We get that. Our concern is that as the ordinance sits today, the ordinance states today that the right-of-way frontage landowners adjacent to this box culvert approach share in the expense of that box culvert. that additional $100,000 on our little 38,000 square foot lot virtually makes that lot unsellable. It's certainly unprofitable. And our argument is that the greater development shares benefit from that box culvert approach in addition to our lot. We don't just deny that it's frontage. However, in the scope of things, we feel that the assessment of cost is not fair. So our request tonight is to actually table this subject until the next meeting. What we would like to do is and we've already begun the process of visiting with businesses, both retail, restaurant, commercial, in that adjacent land to the overlay district. Since there aren't too many businesses in that district yet, it's hard to interview our neighbors that don't exist. So we have been working to interview some of the businesses already to determine what the economic impact of any investment from the city might be. And should that economic impact be of any substantial nature, we hope that you would vote at a future date to assist in the expenses of the box culvert expansion for the overall greater good of the economic impact of Watertown.
So you would be willing to pay a percentage. You're looking at a different figure from as far as the city supporting this development.
Correct.
Okay.
We are willing to contribute and be a part of the overall process. We feel that the assessment of 50% is unfair.
And then I have another quick question for you, Joe. And that is, if you develop this, would you use that sewer and water that has been put into that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I believe, Shane, what's the bill on that? $2,800?
No, it was more than that. I can't remember. It's been paid, and
we received a bill from Austin for somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,800.
Yeah.
And this is how we found out that work was done on the property officially. Unofficially, we knew, but officially, that's how we were notified. So we understand that there's been some expense paid that we're going to benefit from. We're not afraid of doing what's right here. We just don't feel that the 50% assessment of the box culvert cost is a fair assessment to us, being as our teeny tiny little scope of land compared to the rest of the developments around us.
But just so I understand, is a box culvert somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000? Is that where
it's closer to $170,000
out of the 200?
The overall estimate for the project, as the plans show it, is $200,000. So a substantial portion of that is related to the box culvert. I can't. Haven't dissected it down to the dollar on what that portion is, but it is a significant portion as the box culvert. But let's assume that the number that was grasped of $30,000 applies to the Glacial Lakes property. A similar amount would probably reflect across the street. So you're talking about, $140,000 being what would be presumably done in the highway right-of-way, I'll call it, and then the rest of it would all be adjacent to the two properties, if that estimate of $30,000 is in the ballpark.
And I'm not asking you to hold me to that number either. It's ballpark for speaking sake.
And that's one of the reasons why in our discussions today we actually talked about the tabling until the figures would be fleshed out more. I mean, I was part of that.
I do have a question. The whole project's 202, so it's 101 to the guys on the east and 101 to the guys on the west. So we're talking about the 101. The other east guys have already agreed to pay for it.
They're not as good in negotiators as we are.
Well, my point is, that's what I was going to make, is the numbers don't make any sense. We're cutting it three different ways here. I need to understand which way we're going to cut this. Because my understanding is we're not talking about 202. 101's already covered. We got another 101 that we got to talk about.
Well,
that's accurate.
After our meeting, I did take Austin Engineering's estimate of quantities, and I totaled up the culvert costs, and it came to about $68,000. That's all. We thought it was going to be a lot more than that.
Okay, I would request, to see a copy of that. That's all, because the last figure that I saw was roughly $150,000 for the box culvert.
I know. Well, if this is everything, and this is an estimate.
Sure, I understand.
And it's specialized work. And a few years ago, when we first found out that the DOT was going to require that to be widened, I personally called Grand Guard Construction and asked what they would charge to cut that end off and extend this. And
As cast in place?
yes, as cast in place. And it was considerably more than this. It was more in that 170. But that was one contractor.
Right. Yeah, and we'd be 100% on board with getting a cheaper bid. I don't care how it happens.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we want this to be economically beneficial to everybody.
Joe, can I ask you another question right over here?
Absolutely, sorry.
Other ball guy.
Love ball guy.
gotta love it. When we extend 26th to the north there, do you guys stand to benefit from anything north?
I think anybody out here benefits from all of this.
No, I mean you guys particularly.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, our benefit definitely does come from off of Highway 212. I mean, in our experience, and I've been working for Glacier Lakes Capital for just a little under 3 years. In my experience in that short time frame is that Willow Creek Drive, that was put in roughly 10 years ago or so, has somewhat limited appeal to the national retailers. The reason being is the traffic counts just aren't there yet, even though they're significantly improved. The traffic counts really, when national retailers are looking at a town of our size, they're looking at the Highway 212 frontage, and that's pretty much it. And then they won't entertain anything else. So for the most part, things that are going on Willow Creek Drive and the conversations that are being had are fairly local. And so to say that we won't benefit is I can't say that with 100% certainty that the expansion of 26 to the north won't benefit us. I don't feel that it will have a significant benefit to our property on the west side, northwest corner of 26 and Highway 212. I feel that the benefit really comes from it being on Highway 212.
How much of that property does Glacier Lakes have?
Okay, you were kind of headed where I was thinking, Councilman. What I want to do is a quick summary of what we've approved already as far as developments out there. So this is East Park, first edition and second edition mostly. This parcel right here is, as of yet, unplatted. Morris Edition includes the construction and extension of 26th Street and its right-of-way north to Willow Creek. It also includes improvements on what we're now calling 7th Avenue over to the boundary of the previously approved Glacier Lakes Capital property here, which is 23rd Street, which I will turn into 7th Avenue. So this little piece of 26th Street right away is the last cog in the street system in the whole boundary between Willow Creek Drive, and Highway 212. And Glacier Lakes Capital owns this single lot here and this area right here. And then, of course, they have this area on the opposite side of the creek, which doesn't get a benefit from the discussion we're having here. Not directly, anyway.
Shane, that box culvert now, and maybe it's 68,000 is not big of a deal, but aren't there others as you back up toward the east that would profit by a different box culvert than what we were talking about originally? So does it make any sense that some of them might be interested, willing to have a different box culvert down there that they would help pay for?
Well, the east of Willow Creek, you mean?
West.
West?
No, of Willow Creek, but just go west, right directly west of Willow Creek over to 26th. That right in there, all that area?
That is what they're currently projected to pay for 50% of the project that we're talking about.
Yeah, okay.
They have a development
But the
agreement already in
downside
place.
On the south side?
No, that's all independently. That's not part of this project.
Joe, so you were looking at paying the hard surface
Yeah, we've agreed to do
roughly
that.
30,000.
whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Which is about 90 cents a
It's,
square foot.
what's the distance of that lot, Shane? 300 feet? From north to south? I don't have my maps in front of me, and I'm not that smart to remember.
This shows about 190.
Oh, yeah,
but
okay, 190 feet. So 190 feet to the outlot boundary.
So you're looking about 90 cents a square foot is additional cost on your lot, give or take.
Yeah, give or take.
But if you go up to that 100,000, you're looking 265.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the difference between selling a lot and not
Correct.
selling a lot.
Right, correct. And just to kind of tag on to that comment, the resolution 17-37 that the mayor's office had prepared in the, let's see, sixth paragraph, the middle of the sixth paragraph, it is a resolution to allow the city council to basically pay for that improvement, including the box culvert, and then would assess back those costs to that lot, which would essentially make that lot sit there bare in perpetuity. There may be some company that would come in and pay that exorbitant price for that small lot, but I don't think so.
That's really going to be the last lot left, though, and that's the only way it'll get sold. Or
potentially, yeah.
Potentially, yes.
Who paid for the other box culvert way to the west?
I believe that was before my time, but I believe the city paid for that.
City paid for that
But
also.
there's a little bit of false pretense on that too. The council was told that normally the city pays for everything in a previously platted right-of-way when it comes to a subdivision being developed, which isn't true.
So we paid for that box culvert going just onto your area there.
23rd Street, correct. And I think that's potentially where some of my boss's confusion came with the conversation, is that when 23rd Street was put in, the city apparently green-lighted it fairly easily, okay? And we're not denying that we should be a part of this. It's just the percentage of which that we're having an issue with.
So what's going to happen to the other box culvert in the middle?
The state has said they're going to pull that out eventually. That's not going to be
They
allowable.
aren't allowing access there. They don't want access there. They've actually eliminated the access there. So when that house, and maybe it's gone now, I don't know.
The house is gone.
So in other words, the city will paying for 1.5 box culverts out there, and the other developer is going to pay for half for your development.
That doesn't sound very nice to us.
Well, that's in reality how it is.
I understand it. I'm correct. I mean, based on that.
I think we can't make an intelligent vote to know the numbers, what we're talking about, because it's been sliced and diced. So I'm going to think we need to see the numbers so it's clear.
And we'll be happy to put those together for you.
Okay, so just so I have some clarity on how I review the numbers, I'm going to pull everything out of the cost estimate that I believe is related to the box culvert alone, and maybe the turn lanes related to it on the highway. Then I'll take the remainder and assume that that is to build the stub road up from the right, or I'll prorate it out so that I know how much materials are going to be from the right of way of the highway up to where the improvements have to end. And then I'll have to apply a cost per foot factor to that and divvy it out. And I'll vet this through my office, through the mayor's office, and make sure that we're conveying the numbers that the council should see and the accuracy, and we'll also inform, Glacier Lakes Capital of those numbers as we pull them forward. Because I'd rather have a few discussions quietly, and then we'll revisit those numbers at the next meeting. Then is what because if there's any tweaks, we're not going to sit at this desk and tweak it when we get back. So I'd like to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the methods, and then we'll bring that back to you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so, and I'll go back to Joe just to make sure I understand your position is typically, and we all understand, we usually split the cost by adjoining landowners. Your position is your adjoining land is so small, you think that's unbalanced against you.
Correct.
Shane, how urgent is this to get this finished? What are we holding up by not getting this taken care of?
The adjacent landowners have reached out to me with concerns about timelines. They have a few letters of intent, no hard purchases, but letters of intent that they are desiring to extend. But the people that are the parties on the other ends of those letters are desiring a timeline for when is 26th Street going to get completed, and when is, that's their critical cog in their extension discussions. And so I think if we could find a way to approve the distribution of the cost of this 26th Street project and then convey that to those folks, that would relieve a lot of their concerns. And here's how I see it. If we get through this cog, say in December 4th, we could then prepare all the documents that transfers what the city needs into right-of-way. And we got to get that right-of-way acquired then. And we already have the plans designed, so we could start advertising right after the beginning of the year, take bids and start building the dumb thing, next summer early. That's the quick timeline, and I hope if we can get past this discussion, I think that we'll be headed in the right path.
I would just add, I've had similar discussions that there is a sense of urgency. People want to get this done. I think we want to get this done. So I don't take that lightly, but again, until we understand the numbers, there's no sense voting on it.
We'd be prepared at the very next meeting.
Yeah, this has been hanging out there for a while, and I agree 100%. I think it's something we need to expedite, if possible.
I can make a motion to table that till the December 4th meeting.
Okay. Motion by Lallam, second by Mantee. Is there any further discussion?
Motion to table is non-debatable. Motion to table is non-debatable.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for your time.
You don't need to vote?
Need to vote.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. All right. Is there any old business?
I don't know if it's old business. What's the latest on the airplane? Good.
Imagine that. The count as of last night was 8998, and if you average that out over the remaining days in the year, it's about 23 and a half flights a day we have to do, or 23 and a half enplanements we have to get. And just to reiterate, that enplanement term, that's when somebody physically gets in the plane and leaves the ground from Watertown. It's too early to judge how well our promotional efforts are working, but I do have some statistics from the flyaty.com website. And also let me further define that. There's been a little bit of confusion over the Aerodynamics Inc. website, which is FlyADI, aerodynamicsinc.com, and FlyATY, ATY of course being our airport code for you military guys, Alpha Tango Yankee. So from our website, the statistics are we've had 736 page views there. The link to the Denver Convention and Visitor Bureau site has 37 clicks. The link to the Avalanche and Nuggets, or Kroenke Sports and Entertainment site, has 165 clicks. And the flight booking link clicks is 136. So we're getting some activity on the website. I have not got, Todd's out of town right now, but I understand that we have real good booking activity. If you add them up right now, we're going to make it by a little bit, but the whole intention of this promotion was to make it by a lot of bits, so we have insurance in case we get some bad news with weathers or mechanicals. So right now we're on track, but I, again, really want the community and all of us to rally around this. We've talked about it a lot. Now we got to get on the plane. I'm flying out tomorrow. I'll be out again next week. So please look for a reason to fly ATY. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Any other old business?
No, I would like to thank Don. We have talked about this, but I'd like to thank Don for stepping up and trying to move this thing forward and putting a lot of effort into making this happen for us. And Don, can you say anything about the evac stuff?
Well, that's out there. The medical flights, when either a fixed wing or a helicopter leaves the airport, I think there's still some debate. I'm not convinced that we're going to get credit for those. If we do, that will help our cause some, because we've had a number of those go out each month, and not as many commercial flights, of course. But there's a potential that could help our count. But I haven't quite heard that with conviction yet, that I fully believe we get to count those.
Okay. Any other old business?
I have something. Just a question. I know there's been some discussion, Mayor, and I'm getting a lot of questions about the banners. We've had some issues with that. Would you maybe just comment? I know you're trying to help work that issue on the banners on 212.
Yeah, well, we have banners and the Christmas banners. Is that what you're referring to?
The ripped up ones that are, yeah. I'm getting a lot of calls on that.
Yeah.
Just let people know we're getting them cleaned up.
Yes, the park department is responsible for taking those down and putting new ones up, and they're working on it. It's kind of a new responsibility for them. It's something utilities used to do in the past, and they since have passed that responsibility to the park department, and they're working on it. So.
I got another one, then I'll be
Okay.
quiet. If you haven't looked, the city has redesigned their website. It looks pretty good. I think overall feedback's pretty good. I want to reiterate, people, we get calls a lot about issues, or I just want to point things out to you. Can you have somebody check on this? If you look at the top of our new website in the far right, there is a How Do I link. If you click on that, then you'll have a chance on that to report or request either a crime tip or something like that, or ordinance violation. Want to make sure people are aware of that, because I do get calls from time to time, and people want to make sure something's noticed, but just want to reiterate that you can use that through the website. It's a handy tool. They do watch that.
Great, thank you. Okay. Is there any new business? No new business. Well, we will have an executive session this evening in order to discuss and consult with our legal counsel on contractual matters. So I'd like a motion to go into
So moved.
executive. Got a motion by Y and a second by Lallam. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. We are in executive session.
Do you expect any action coming out?
No, I do not expect any action. Thank you.